Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we're talking about Hard Boiled, the 1992 Hong Kong action film directed by John Woo. Hello, Pete.
Hello. Sorry, I said hello much too early then.
Hello.
Action to hear my name, say hello.
Yeah. Hello.
I've also just realised that I have 8 pages of notes, which I've got in the wrong order.
Okay. So you chose Hard Boiled, and this is is this one of your favourites? Is that fair?
Ooh, I might be giving away the ending.
Okay. So tell me why you chose this one.
Yeah, because it's one of my favourites. One of the main reasons I chose it is because I like John Woo's Western stuff a bit. I enjoy Hard Target, and I really like Face Off. But they're films where he's essentially in the director's chair, and that's pretty much it. Whereas most of his Hong Kong films, he's either, at the very least, written the plot, and if not written the script, quite often appears in them as well. And I just wanted to kind of compare and contrast the two, really, because I think that he's typically one of these directors that went to Hollywood and then got quite a bum deal, really, got kind of worse and worse scripts to work with, and kind of either he became a parody of himself or the kind of things that he does didn't really work in a Western film. Right. Because I think kind of the two guns, doves and slow-mo stuff, people just find that, people laugh at that now. So I just thought it was good to look back at before people laughed at it, and back when he was kind of being, Tarantino movie posters and stuff were kind of talking about John Woo and how great he is. And just going back to a pure film that has his kind of stamp all over it. And I think you said you hadn't seen it, is that right?
Yes, this is the first time I'd seen it. I thought I had, and then I started watching it and I thought, no, I've never actually seen this.
Yeah, well, I used to have this on VHS with the subtitled version and the dubbed version. An interview that Mariella Frostrup did with John Woo where he couldn't understand anything that she said. The one on for really weird kind of one-word answers and then pardon and some pidgin English. And also in the same box set, I had a T-shirt. I had a T-shirt with the image of Chow Yun-Fat holding the baby.
Right.
T-shirt. It's probably quite rare now, but yeah. So that probably gives you a hint as to whether I like the film or not.
Okay. Strange, but all right. It was an unusual film, that's for sure. My first impression was, man, they all smoke a lot. Were films all like this back in the day?
That's a valid point. I hadn't even... Yeah.
Do you not notice that everyone smokes all the time?
It's a stressful job.
But it's like constant chain smoking. The only person who didn't smoke, probably because it wouldn't look very flattering, was the one woman in the film, the actress, who played June, is it?
I can't remember her name. That's terrible. I know that.
But they all called her Madam for some reason, which I always thought was a bit odd.
Did you watch it dubbed or did you watch it with subtitles?
Subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah, subtitles. I didn't go for the dub. So Chow Yun-Fat is Tequila, Inspector Tequila Yun.
He doesn't smoke. He chews a matchstick.
I think he smokes as well at some point.
Matchstick. Very.
Well, maybe not him, but everybody else does all the time. So explain something to me that, the beginning scene where it all goes wrong. And spoilers, by the way, because we're going to spoil this to death. So the opening scene when he's in that place and his partner's killed.
Yeah, in the tea house with the birds and the cages and the guns hidden in the base of the cages.
Yeah, what the hell? What are those birds for? I don't get it. Can you explain it to me? What's it for?
I don't know. It's a thing. I think. I don't think it's specifically for this movie. I'm going to find out.
Okay.
Birds in tea houses, which is my second album.
I just looked at it and thought, right, tea house. What are they cockfighting with little birds? Is it a status thing? Is it? I don't know what it meant.
Many elderly people bring their cage birds to restaurants and chat with others. Morning tea and newspaper, and you tend to bring a caged bird. According to this, it's a Hong Kong
Right.
thing.
Okay.
It's a great idea, though. I think that whole scene is a great start to the film. Just because you have got these birds in cages, and then the guns are inside, and it kind of goes from this kind of relatively sedate scene into. It's pretty brutal, actually. That's the thing I noticed about the film is that they like shooting people a lot.
Yes.
Compare it to a Hollywood film but the body count in this film, I dread to think how many it is, and a lot of kind of bystanders and innocent people. I'm not sure the triads would be that keen to shoot innocent people in public, but it certainly works for the film.
The other thing I also noticed I was going to come on to, but may as well mention it now, is that when people get shot, they don't die very quickly. They'll get shot about 6 times, and then they'll get up, and with his 7th bullet, they'll actually put them down. So there's a scene where Tony's on the boat, and someone comes above him in a hatch and shoots him in his back with a shotgun, but he just shakes that off and then carries on, and he's okay.
He does. He, as a character, which is long, isn't it? The amount of times we think he's dead in the film, it must be 5 times that he kind of takes a full, either a shot or battered pretty badly.
It's almost like the Return of the King all over again. He never died. He just kept coming back. I was convinced he was dead on that point. I thought, that's it. That's the end of him. There'll be something else now. Oh no, wait, no, he's okay. Here we go. And then it carried on. So that was surprising. I think
it's quite interesting because it feels like it's Chow Yun-Fat's film and it's all about tequila.
Yeah,
really, it's kind of Long's film, or certainly the two of them in parallel. But again, spoilers. It kind of shifts from being about this policeman kind of trying to get vengeance for his partner dying, and becomes more about what it's like to be an undercover cop and how deep you go in. I mean, it's a well-trodden kind of thing, but I think it's quite well done here. At what point do you kind of lose yourself, and at what point? So again, I think the whole John Woo thing where people go, the slow-mo and the doves and the 2 guns thing. There's some crazy stuff in this film. There's some humour in this film. I really like the soundtrack, although it does get cheesy at times.
Right.
But I think overall, what I like about this film particularly is there's a bit of depth there, I think, in terms of the characters and kind of the role of the police and stuff. It's quite well hidden in the first sort of half an hour, but I think it does get quite kind of meaningful.
Because I'd not seen this before, I didn't know that Tony was undercover. I didn't get that. It wasn't too obvious to begin with for me. Maybe it is obvious to someone else, but I looked at it and thought, okay, this guy's obviously not comfortable with what he's doing. And then his bosses obviously loves him, and he's almost like a father figure to him, to all of them. And they're all kind of very pleased with him. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, yeah, this kindly uncle, surely he runs a criminal organization. He might be nice to them, but he's still, killing people, selling drugs, prostitution probably. But, that aside, he seems like a lovely chap.
Right.
And
it's that age-old code thing, though, I think. And I think for parallels of kind of the police code and the kind of criminal code. And I think, for me, the main villain, Johnny Wong, I think, played by Anthony Wong, is that his character isn't within the code. We'll probably come onto it later. One of the other characters called Mad Dog, even he thinks he's taken it too far later in the film, which I think is kind of, hits home really. But to be honest, I'd forgotten that he was undercover, and I've seen this film at least in double figures.
Right.
I've seen it for a while, so actually I completely forgot that until you get to the warehouse scene. It's basically this big warehouse scene. There's a lot of motorbikes and explosions. Lots of scenes in this do feel like something like Time Crisis, because the way the amount of shooting and stuff. But there's lots of things. I think like a year later he made Hard Target, and there's an awful lot of scenes from this film that have been lifted and put into that. Really, with the motorbikes and things, watered down to a certain extent. But yes, you're right. I've got a note here that there's a very interesting moment where he actually lights his cigarette from the flames that are burning. Yes, that was. If I ever note about a cigarette here.
Yeah, so there's this, he's obviously not comfortable, and he has to betray this father figure and side with Johnny, and it's either it comes down to a critical moment, and in the end, he's saying to him, you shoot me, you got to do it, you have to do it. I'd rather it was you than one of these other people, and I know, it'd be someone killed by someone I like than one of these dogs, and he's really cornered, and it's just so uncomfortable. And then you get that moment where suddenly you realize, hang on, he's not just a guy who's stuck in a bad situation. It's even worse than that. He's undercover, which we didn't know until the boat scene.
Just before he kills Mr. Hoy, I think it is, but then he loses it completely and kills all of his entourage with a machine gun.
Yes,
he's undercover cop and he's killed this one person. But I think that's where it gets a little bit, it's good because he's kind of fighting back the tears and he's kind of obviously completely lost it. But you just think, that's quite a thing to do when you're undercover.
Yeah, just the other character I wanted to mention is Tequila's captain.
Yes.
So what is wrong with that guy? Because he says to him, I think at one point he says something like, do you need to go and take a shit because you're shouting a lot?
If you need a shit, go to the toilet. That's in the film. Definitely. No, it's kind of, it does the typical kind of, superintendent and rogue cop kind of relationship in a way. But then for some reason he's really fond of Long's character. But you get the feeling that he could totally take or leave Tequila, even though they're very similar. It's kind of, it's a bit, I was almost waiting for him to be his father.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so they do a lot of shouting matches all the time, which is really odd. And then there's that whole thing with Madam, who he's trying to court and keeps getting flowers and the cards and the code. And when he got out the computer, I thought, oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. And he saw him punching in the code on the old green screen computer. Oh, that was just fantastic. Took me right back.
Sing Hello by Lionel Richie as well.
Really?
The code is Hello by Lionel Richie. So the bit where they start singing, her and Tequila singing, is that they sing the opening line from Hello by Lionel Richie.
Ah, right.
Of action films. And did you notice the John Woo cameo?
No, I didn't.
He's Mr. Woo, who's the jazz bar owner. So Tequila clarinet, I think, in a jazz ensemble.
Yes.
And goes to kind of clear his head in a jazz bar and get some sort of sage advice from this wise old guy. But that's John Woo.
No, I didn't get that. Didn't get that at all. Oh, I wasn't looking for it, but it was probably obvious.
I watched him for half an hour being interviewed by Mario Frostrop. That's the difference.
Yes. Although struggling to understand her, apparently.
Come with me if you want to live.
Yes, indeed. What did you think of the scene in the library? So that's quite early on.
So this is where Long goes and kills this man, finds a book, finds a special book, takes a gun out, kills him, shoots him in the head, and then puts the book away again. And yet somehow, so that was good. It was to the point. It was very good. But the after it felt a bit weird with Tequila. How he managed to find it was a little bit. I was sitting there going, "Oh, come on, come on." He's not Sherlock Holmes, and that's still stretching a bit.
I know what you mean, because later you start to see the parallels, and their lives are almost, kind of mirror images of each other. But I don't know that at all. And yet, the fact that he can kind of walk along, run his hand down some books, and stop at the right book. Although I guess it was sticking out a little bit, but even so, it did feel quite implausible.
I mean, he could see from the way the blood had been running that there had been a book there, and it's not too surprising they were in a library, but it just seemed a little bit. But little things I can forgive it.
And I think
it
worked as a visual piece. I think as kind of way that the film was set up. I thought it looked, as these scenes go, it looked right.
Yeah, it was okay. It was all right. So, where do you want to go next? Do you want to start talking about the hospital scene, which goes on for about 40 minutes or something. Or
half the film is the final kind of hospital scene. But yeah, I just want to touch on one of the characters beforehand because he's quite important to the hospital scene. Mad Dog, who's Quack, who is the guy with the sunglasses, who's just kind of the coolest of the bad guys, really, without sort of putting it too mildly. And then later on, there's a whole ongoing thing with his eyes getting damaged, and he's wearing kind of an eye patch and stuff. But later in the film, you kind of get the point where Johnny's gone too far, and even Mad Dog has kind of doesn't think it. But he's, I like the way he's set up as a character. Yeah,
you can see that he's not undercover, but he is trapped, and he's not comfortable, and he's tied himself to this person that is in charge, who's got nowhere he can really go, and then suddenly this guy's gone over any line, any code that he has, and he breaches it, so he sticks his neck out. Doesn't go well at all.
No, and yeah, the whole thing with the hospital scene is that they're basically trying to find Johnny's cache of weapons. That's what the whole kind of film is building up to, and yeah, they're hidden at a hospital in the morgue, I think, if I correct.
We're going to say before that, what do you think of the weird scene where they're trying to get through the door and he's tapping out? He makes that little thing in the pipe and he taps it out and puts the bullet in, and then he shoots it and it eventually hits it, but it doesn't work, and then Long electrocutes himself.
Yeah, I don't know. Because all the way, it almost feels like through the whole film, certainly the second half of the film, that Long can't live with himself, and is almost. I think there's a line that he says somewhere about whether I live or die isn't important. It's about whether we finish the case. So I think, although that scene is a little bit ridiculous, I hope that the kind of the idea there is just that he keeps putting himself in harm's way because he's past the point of caring whether he makes it out or not. And I guess it does kind of make them two bond, but it is a bit of a strange way of making that happen.
Yeah, it was a little odd. I wasn't quite sure what it was going for with that thing, but they got in eventually, and then they get into the hospital, and then there's all of the stuff with the morgue. There's some really cool scenes, to be fair, in that part of the film, with them bursting out of the trays in the morgue whilst shooting, and then carrying on wheels and shooting people, and explosions and dynamite and some cracking action things.
Fight choreography. And it is where, again, people say about the whole two-gun thing. This is a place where it's done really well. Say being pushed along with the trolley and stuff, and the fact there's the two of them, I think, works well.
And Mad Dog, there again, there's some things, there's a line that even he won't cross. There's that scene where they come into the room and there's a big crowd of innocents in between them, and they both stop and they kind of put their guns down on the floor and wait till all the innocents have run out, and then they pick up their guns again and start shooting at each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's almost like it's almost like if you're a villain, it's okay as long as you live by this code. And then there are some police who don't live by the code, and some villains who don't live by the code. It's kind of And then it gets really crazy when they start getting to the point about the babies.
Yes, what is up with that? I'd seen the poster, the front of the DVD with the mom with the baby, and I'm going, why is he holding the baby? Is it and when I first started watching, I was thinking maybe he's rescuing it and that's part of the story, or maybe it's someone gets killed and he has to look after it. And then I just didn't see the baby and I forgot about it. And then right at the end, they started getting the babies and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right then. I see where we're going with this. They start lowering them out the window and stuff.
Cotton wool in their ears.
Yes. That was brilliant.
I think at first you go, it says metaphor for kind of loss of innocence, and then you go, but they're now in 20 to 30 minutes of the film, so it's obviously more than that. I suppose it shows the kind of some people were carrying on shooting. It's very uncomfortable. I remember when I first ever saw the film, I was thinking at some point a baby's going to get shot in this film, and I don't have to turn it off. But yeah, thankfully they don't. But how they don't get caught in the crossfire is quite remarkable.
I think this is talking about the comedy elements. I think the other funny bit is where Johnny's got he's holding someone hostage right at the end, and he makes Tequila say these things about himself. Like, he makes him say, I can't remember what he says, makes him insult himself and then slap himself, and then he takes it a little too far because there's something like, take down your pants. And I thought, whoa, come on now, that's just taking it too far. That's just silly now.
You're impotent and take off trousers.
And then Johnny sort of makes him say it once or twice, and then he just keeps saying it and slapping himself, going, I'm impotent, slap, I'm impotent, I'm awful, I'm so impotent, I'm useless, slap. And it's like, all right, wait, stop, man, you're getting carried away now. I think it was comedic and it wasn't really meant to be. It just went a little too far.
I think it's one of those things. So many things in the film are foreshadowed. Like, you've got the bit that you talked about with the bullet, and he can shoot the bullet, and then at the very end of the film, again, spoilers, he does the same thing, shooting Johnny in the eye, and it's, framed the same, and it's kind of, I shot that bullet, now I can shoot your eye. And then you get the world's worst prosthetic head. Literally, I've seen lots of bad prosthetic heads over the years. One very recently in Hawaii 5-0, actually, but that is the worst prosthetic head, I think, in the history of cinema. But yeah, so you get that. But there's so many things that you see a scene, and then later in the film, you see almost a parallel scene. And the feeling that the slap in the face impotency bit, you almost think there must be an edit somewhere that's got a scene that links to that, because it does feel kind of totally out of kilter, really.
Yes, it did seem very odd. I'm not quite sure what they're going for. But in terms of action, in terms of explosion, in terms of epic scenes like the one in the sort of giant garage thing with the motorbikes and the jumping and the killing and lots of explosions in that one, and right through to all of the fights in the hospital, which was some great moments again, not just the two gun stuff, but some of the other bits. And that poor fella who gets the crap beaten out of him, then he gets thrown into the water, then he gets taken to hospital, then he gets stabbed and gets his throat cut, and he gets thrown down a laundry chute, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. I don't think I'm going to ever plan to be a Hong Kong police informant. Certainly as a career path, it does put you off, because they don't. I think there are other people that sort of die and they get like these lingering moments and funeral scenes and stuff. But it's kind of like, well, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have actually been able to do what they could do, because he was the person giving them the information. Although Long was also an inside man, but was inside policeman, he was the opposite, I guess. He was a villain that was leaking information. But yeah, he's just kind of disposed of, and kind of it, really.
Yeah, it didn't go well for him at all. And the other thing worth mentioning is the suits.
Yes.
Miami Vice, big suits, big, almost MC Hammer trousers at times, and just really awful colours that you'd never ever wear ever. I mean, I've no fashion sense, and I'd never put two colours together. Even I know that some of what they were wearing were horrendous.
Triad boss should wear a multicoloured tie. It's an early 90s film with a very 80s feel.
Yeah. It was fun. I'm glad I saw it. It's one of these ones. I'm glad I watched it. I'm not sure I'll rush to go back and watch it again. I'm not sure if I've missed too much the first time around, that there's hidden depths that I really haven't plumbed from.
No, it's just age, but you think of a film like The Departed, which covers really similar ground, and obviously it gets lauded, and that was based on Infernal Affairs, which is another Hong Kong film, also stars Tony Leung, who plays Long, and that's very similar ground. There are, in some ways, this is a similar film to that. I think that it is deeper than it appears. And Empire magazine, when it came out, said it was more exciting than a dozen diehards.
Excellent. A dozen die. Well, we're up to 5, so.
And Tequila was voted in Empire's 100 greatest movie characters of all time, came 33rd.
Wow.
And do you know about the sequel?
No.
It's a computer game. 2007 computer game called Stranglehold, which John Woo directed, and I think they motion captured Chow Yun-Fat playing Tequila. And there's talk of them making another cinema release, but it depends really.
Interesting.
Enough with the yakety yak. What is your score?
So, do you want to give it your score?
I'm going to give it a 5.
Really?
For sure.
Wow. We haven't given anything a 5 yet, have we?
It's just a bit where we break up over creative differences.
I'm thinking, I don't think either of us have given anything a 5. I don't think I gave Enter the Dragon a 5. I think I gave it 4.
I gave Enter the Dragon a 3, didn't I? And I think I gave Blind Fury a 4.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to give this a 3.
Okay.
3 bags out of 5. It was good. I'm glad I saw it. It was definitely a film of its age, but I could still enjoy it in 2013. There's lots that I enjoyed. Silly bits, comedic bits. It was obviously quite dated in some places, the clothes and the technology and the computers. But I don't know. Maybe I'm measuring it by modern standards. Maybe I need to watch some more old classic films. But there are some other action films from the 80s, 90s that I really enjoy more than this. So I think 3 out of 5 bags is a fair rating.
For me, it was probably the first Hong Kong film I saw properly. And it was that crossover point where I was kind of moving from pure action films into kind of more sort of Tarantino type stuff. And for me, this film was kind of the bridge between the two. And it could be that I've got rose-coloured glasses on, a bit like Blind Fury. It's a film that meant an awful lot to me at a relatively young age. But I don't know, I really, having seen it quite a few times and revisiting it, I still had forgotten things and was still constantly surprised by it. And I think that's a good, there's so many films that I've always said I really like. And then on repeat viewings, you go, I don't know if I can. I wouldn't probably watch Blind Fury again. Having rewatched that for the first episode, I'd probably got all I could ever get out of that film. But I'd probably watch this again. But what I'm going to have to do now is I haven't seen his other Hong Kong stuff, so I'm going to have to go and see The Killer and Better Tomorrow and stuff like that and compare, which I don't know why I haven't seen them really, considering how much I like this film. And then if I like them more, I'm going to have to downgrade this, I guess.
Okay. Well, retroactive downgrading, maybe. But no, it was good. It was good. I guess there's some old films that I really enjoy, some old classic action films. I might have to go back and revisit again and see if they're as good as I remember, or if I'm sort of remembering them and thinking that they're much better than they actually are. So I don't know. There's a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme films that I watched that I could watch today and actually think, it's all right. They're not as brilliant as I remember. But, for the record, I'm getting really fed up with Quentin Tarantino.
Has he been around your house again?
He did. He came round and he wanted to borrow milk, and it was my last pint. And I said, let's go down the shop. And I said, I've only got dollars, I haven't got pounds. And he was whinging on. And he started talking. And that was 20 minutes, just giving the milk just to shut him up.
I haven't forgiven Spike Lee for moving my scatter cushions.
Yeah, I still haven't watched the second half of Kill Bill.
I haven't either.
I've got it. I've never watched it. Got bored, turned it off.
I liked Inglourious Basterds, and I'm planning to watch Django in the next week or so. So, I don't know. I found him really irritating. He was on, was it Graham Norton the other day? And I found him really irritating on that. But I think
I haven't watched Inglourious Basterds and don't really want to, because everyone said, it's his Dirty Dozen. I thought, brilliant. And it's not. It's not that at all. If it was, I'd watch it, but it's blatantly not.
What I liked about that film, actually, is that it sets you up for one sort of film, which is like that. And that's what I was expecting to watch. And it's actually a very different film. It's like a love letter to cinema, which I think is really nice. But
I want the one that he promised, not the one that he delivered.
Excited, everyone. There we are. Yeah.
But anyway. So that's our quick roundup of other current action film news and people who steal milk.
Indeed.
So we'll be back in the future at some point to talk about the 2008 film Rambo.
And if you want to get in touch and let us know what you thought of Hard Boiled, whether you I was gonna make some bad egg joke. Then I'm not gonna make a bad egg joke. I can't even think of one. Whether you think like Steve, that was a little bit dated and of its time, or whether, like me, you think it's a seminal action classic, you can. There's a Facebook group, and there's also we are on Twitter at Bags of Action.
Yeah, so let us know and get in touch, and we'll be talking about Rambo next episode.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.